My name's Chris.
And I'm Krisitie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
And we're off to the pyramids tonight. It's desert week.
Not quite. It's close.
Oh, it's got an extra S.
Really close. Yes, it says it dirt week. For the listexic out there, hello.
Hello.
No, it's dessert week.
It is
which in Bake Off always seems to be a stupid week to me, because technically most things in Bake Off are dessert week.
Well, yeah. Except bread.
And
not really.
Sweetbreads.
Oh, sweetbreads.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I said most things, not all things. But we'll talk about in particular. There's one thing that they did this week on the Great Canadian Bake Off. It's fucking Bake Off. There's one thing they did this week in particular, which makes an appearance in every series of this show worldwide, and it's the filler ingredient. Whenever they've got a bake that they're running low on,
Let's do a fondant fancy.
Let's do a fondant fancy. So we'll get to the fondant fancy.
I've never seen one in real life.
I've never had one.
No,
never.
I think the closest is probably a Lamington.
A Lamington's probably the closest. It's sort of an equivalent, but not quite as fancy.
No,
it's just a fondant.
I'm fond of the Lamington.
To use an Australian term, it's a fondant bog standard. So anyway, this week was dessert week.
It was.
In the Great Canadian Bake
camels,
Off.
just sweet stuff.
In the Great Canadian Bake Off Pavilion, as we're referring to it, the pavilion. You will notice we are recording really quickly. If you listen to these back to back, we did the second episode last night.
And then I've just gone, you know what? Do another one.
We did say to you all, we're going to have this done in time for the new series.
Hells yeah.
We could have it done by the end of the evening. Who the hell knows, really?
I'm up for fourth episode?
Yeah,
fourth episode.
Yep, fourth episode. So this is how good this show is going, by the way. If you haven't been able to find it in the ether anywhere, and again, we wouldn't know where you can find it.
No.
It's an ethereal...
We were just sailing the seven seas with our Jolly Roger erected...
That's too specific.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know where you could possibly find the show, but if you can find it through either sailing the seven piracies or I don't know, browsing various video sites that might potentially...
Or petition Foxtel just to get it on in Australia.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, that
Come
would
on,
be...
Rupert, you're back here now.
You've changed the government. What more do you want?
You've changed the government. You fucked up our NBN. Our streaming services are shit. So just bring it on, Rupert. Bring on the Canadian Baking Show / Bake Off.
Exactly. So let's get into it, because it opened with something that rocked me to my very core. And
an existentialist crisis?
Not quite that much.
Oh. Well, that's what... Oh, gosh. Now I'm having, I'm renaming everyone. It's not
Julia?
Julia. I was going to call her Jenny.
Well done. So...
Julia having a bit of
She's been renaming it. Kristie's been renaming everyone this series. It's been great.
Yeah.
Rochelle's had about 1 million names.
She has.
Every time there's something else. Oh, that was what Rachel said. It's Rochelle. And there was one you called her the other day that was not even...
Michelle.
There was Michelle, but there was one other one.
Heidi.
And I can't remember what it was. And you called her something else, and it wasn't Rochelle.
Oh, well, we'll find out what we call her later on. There's some
Find out. There's some forward sizzle. But what rocked me to my very core was we opened with the bakers walking in. They cut to Corey, who goes, "This is my week."
Well, there we go. Show spoiled.
So that's it. Game over. Bye, Corey. And as it turned out...
Bye, Corey.
Bye, Corey. James talked about this...
I don't think he's bi, though. I think he's very much on one side of the fence.
James talked about this in the last episode. I would say this is my week, but it's a bit of a jinx.
Yep.
And I don't want to go home this early. Right? James understands, as a Brit, he understands the bake-off mentality.
Yep.
If you say...
This is my week.
You're going home.
Ciao. Start packing.
So
if you're missing your loved ones and you do actually want to go home, just say it's your week, even if you've never made a friggin' dessert in your life.
Exactly. So let's get into it. The signature bake this week was a sweet pie or tart.
I know. What are you more of a fan of, a pie or a tart? Oh, I know. You married me. You're more of a fan of a tart.
Tell them the story. Tell them the story. Okay, so Australian listeners who have been listening to MasterChef and stuff, just 30 seconds.
Let me just take you back to a time when I was in my early 20s and I was reading up on the Scottish Highlands and stuff, and Bonnie King Charles II and his Tart of mistress was Lucy Scott, the cheerful Tart. Now, my mum's dad, her surname is Scott. That's her maiden name. And I'm like, well, I'll just take on the family title, shall I? The cheerful Tart. So here we are, folks.
So I'm here.
I don't know if we're related, but I presume so, because last name's Scott.
She's decided that she's related to the cheerful Tart.
Yes.
And is taking on the legacy of the cheerful Tart. You can bottle that up however you want, people. So I often find that a sweet pie is often followed by a sweet tart. So moving on, let's move. So very quickly, we don't have time to stop at that one. We do not have time to stop at that one. Let's just keep rolling into it.
We've got tarts to look at.
Let's start with Julian.
Yes.
So Julian went with a lemon meringue pie.
Mm-hmm. He made every woman who's inclined to like men ovulate as he was talking about he was making it. Oh no, it was the meringue for the grandmothers. That's right. But he was making his mother's.
He said about the fact that he had this affinity. Whatever he thinks of the pie, he thinks of the idea of the lemon meringue pie. And all I heard from next to me was, "You can't go home yet. I'm ovulating." So, Julian, you got a fan. So that was true. Linda had quite a week. It started with that raspberry swirl pie and a phrase that I've never heard said before.
Which was?
I grate my lard. This was when they were talking about their secrets to making good pastry. I can't make pastry.
No?
I buy it beautifully.
You do.
Nobody can store-buy pastry
like you do.
Quite like I do.
No, you do it with flair.
It's done with whimsy. Speaking of whimsy, Jude.
Yes.
So Jude decided, first of all, Jude was doing a pumpkin cashew tart. And later...
Now, she described, and I said to her, what do you consider to be elegance? And she just, succinctly described elegance. And I'm like, where's the whimsy, Jude?
Oh, the whimsy was coming.
Jude, where's your whimsy?
The whimsy was a-coming.
I know, but it was missing from that succinct reply. I'm like...
Don't worry, because then she decided to not blind bake.
Oh, Jude.
And it was so much fun.
You just saw Mary Berry in the background just screaming, no!
Next you'll be telling us you're not oven baking your meringue. But Jude...
blowtorch.
But Jude goes, no blind baking. Britta goes, why? And she's like, because it's how I do it at home. And he just goes, you said that with such authority. And Jude's reply was, I have to. So at that point, all of that confidence and authority kind of melted away with the, kind of have to say that.
Yes.
You kind of, please let us know, Jude. If you listen to this, please let us know. Did you mean to do the no blind bake? Do you actually do that at home? Or did you kind of forget? I had a bit of a hunch that she kind of forgot. Realised that timing-wise, she was a bit screwed and didn't blind bake. Now, the reason I say this is that Corey, who had a really bad week, Corey also didn't blind bake, and his didn't seem to be for reasons of this is how I do it. It seemed to be, oh, shit, I forgot to put it in the oven.
Well, it's just a little forgetfulness just floating around the tent.
It's not a problem.
Chasing the whimsy.
Round the pavilion we go.
Yes.
James, his pie.
Great concept.
Now,
science pie is always good.
We've thought about this, and to go along with the Listen to Your Bakes World Tour,
yes,
we feel there needs to be a science show tour.
Exactly.
And we've got the cast already. So it's James.
Yep.
It's Yan from the most recent series of British Bake Off, not the one currently on. The one before that.
Yep.
They need to go on tour and do a science baking show.
With Emma.
With Emma from the last series of the Great Australian Bake Off.
Yes.
A science-based, science-themed baking show.
Yes, it will have some science-based pun for a name. Come at us, tweet at us with your pun names for the science show, the science baking show.
Yes, I think the idea of the science baking show is quite good. I think that Again, a good pun name.
I'd like to think that they'd get gigs with like Brian Cox and Bill Nye.
Brian Cox would be amazing. Can you imagine Brian Cox coming on and like giving us the science behind like a baked cheesecake?
Exactly. Or they're just the starter, you know, they come out, they warm everyone up with their baking show before Brian Cox comes out and does his Brian Cox.
No, then they make the world's largest croquembouche. And then Brian Cox comes out
and talks about
the physics as to why it's standing.
No.
I like that.
Breaks it down.
We've got this idea. Look, you're welcome to it. 10% of your profits.
Yep.
We're easy. Now, Corey also was doing a pear and salted chocolate pie. Now, my question to you. Are pears cursed?
Why?
Well, what happened in the last episode? What cost Sinclair?
The pear.
The pears wrapped in pastry. Again, pears encased in pastry.
Yeah, but if you looked at Corey's knife skills, like you just take that word skills right out of it. It was just a knife cutting through the flesh.
We love you, Corey.
It really was the whole just like when you're doing it, you know, you just want to weigh what you do to herbs.
But I'm starting to wonder if pears are cursed in the Canadian kitchen.
I think
because
that you
two in a row. And the stupid part about the pears, as we said the other day that took Sinclair out, was that they weren't even essential to the bake.
No, they weren't.
They were a side dish.
It's like a pear assassin.
I liked when they got to the judging.
in the pear industry.
When they got to the judging of Corey's, my favourite part of the judging was when she looked at it and she goes, "You said elegant. This would not necessarily be elegant."
No, there were big pieces of pear, little pieces of pear.
And there was giant gaps.
Big pear, little pear, little pear, big pear, big cow, little cow, little cow, big cow.
Everywhere a big pear.
Yeah.
No, everywhere is not a big pear. Just wanted to say that. Okay, Terry. So this week, Terry decided to cover identity.
Yes.
By having a conversation with the blueberries. Now...
Picked up Jude's introducing
the whimsy. Jude was serious and Terry's like, someone needs some whimsy.
Yes.
I need some whimsy in this shit.
She caught the whimsy.
She caught the whimsy.
The whimsy just floats around the shed now. It's its own little entity. She just caught it up.
Is the whimsy a disease? Is it like the dropsy?
Although
I've got the dropsy, got the whimsy.
I feel that Terry's got wind of our Listen to Your Bakes World tour, and she's decided to be their opening act, which is talk to your ingredients.
She wants in. She'll talk to the ingredients before Jude introduces them.
And they've got a song, well, watch me talk to the ingredients, walk with the ingredients, run, skip, sing with the ingredients. I don't know.
And they will introduce me as Jude comes out on stage and goes, ladies and gentlemen, blueberries! With Final Countdown playing behind. Now, we need to talk about Terry's tart. You know what she made?
What'd she make?
Aurora Borealis.
Aurora Borealis?
At this time of year, at this time of day, localised entirely in that pavilion.
Could we see it?
Yes.
Yes, we could.
We could see it.
Nice little moose.
The Northern Lights tart, which looked incredible and is my second favourite Canadian Northern Lights reference ever. The first, of course, being Northern Lights, Tears Are Not Enough. And before anyone goes, oh, God, you're looking up random Canadian shit again. Christy, am I a bit enamoured with Tears Are Not Enough by Northern Lights?
Just a little, just a tad.
I will give anybody who listens a diatribe on why it is a better song than We Are the World. Also, if you've never seen the clip for Tears Are Not Enough, I urge you to go and watch it. There are a couple of things to look out for. Gordon Lightfoot's one of them. Anne Murray's another thing to look out for. But most importantly, young Bryan Adams is very much on the lookout there. But most importantly of all, it's Neil Young in what I can only refer to as I drive a white van and hang around public schools. It's that phase. He looks very dodgy. If you saw him in the street, you would grab your child by the hand a little bit tighter and run.
Look, if you ever get the chance to watch the film clip with Chris commentating, it's an experience.
The first time I showed it to you, I went, watch Neil Young. You're like, why would I want to watch it? Ooh.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God, what's wrong with Neil Young? Why does he look like he's going to kidnap somebody in that room? So, it's again, Tears Are Not Enough, Northern Lights. Not quite up to the standard, though, of Terry's tart, which looked sensational.
Held itself together.
And you know what assisted her?
What?
What assisted her? Linda.
Oh, a Linda.
So let's talk about, again, we are very big proponents of the idea that the bake-off spirit is that very helpful, everyone pitches in.
Yep.
Linda finished hers, turned around, and just helped Terry finish hers off like an absolute champion.
And there's Terry going, I don't know how I can repay you. Yes, you do, Terry. Free passes for Linda and her grandkids.
Flights, passes. It's a wonderful
Personal
day.
tour.
It's a wonderful day out. I have been.
At the Australian Zoo.
I have been. You were making fun of me for seeing Bindi Irwin everywhere I went.
Yes, I was.
But,
and the hat you wore.
And the hat that I wore as well on that
Please
day.
post that on the Twitter.
I might.
Let's just say he's a pale redhead.
Yes. Now, Julian's lemon meringue pie. Let's quickly mention it again. Because...
A little uneven.
Well, the other
Too
problem with
thick
it
pastry.
was... Well, the problem with it was, though, it was a warm pie. And then he put meringue on it. And as Dan turned around to him and goes...
Should you be putting meringue on a warm pie?
And Julian looked and went... Probably not. And then just looked back at the pie ruefully, like it's too late. I'm not fixing this now.
Yeah.
And so they did all the judging. When they went and did all the judging, what we had was a bit unfortunate in a couple of cases. Jude. Now Jude's pumpkin cashew tart. It looked intriguing, as she said. I'm putting raw fruit, raw vegetable on a fruit on a pie. It didn't look amazing, and she was worried about a soggy bottom.
She got a blonde bottom. Pale bottom. It was a true English bottom, pale and pale to the point of translucency.
There were a couple of issues in terms of translucency there as well. So that didn't go quite as well. The flavours in Sabrina's were amazing. That tropical delight tart.
Oh, that looked delicious.
She's really good at her flavours. Speaking of really good at her flavours and quickly becoming my favourite person in there, Vandana.
Yes.
Her flavours are incredible.
Yes.
Watching her come up with these ideas, the mango ginger cream pie that she came up with was superb.
Love a bit of mango, love a bit of ginger. Then you whack them in a pie. Whoa, flavour country.
You're all set. Corey also had a bit of a soggy bottom, a bit of a blonde bottom.
Yes, he did.
So unfortunately, and then James's pie, as he said, it started off as pie. It's ended up more like chaos theory.
Looked delicious though.
They said it tasted good.
Yeah.
It looked more like a swamp.
It did. It was just waiting for Shrek to set up his little
I thought it was waiting for Luke Skywalker to pull his X-wing out of it.
Eat your way, Will. Eat your way, Will.
Pie I eat. So then we went and spoke to a couple of people, and Jude in particular, who, again, in her very Canadian manner. Well, there's not much you can say about a soggy bottom other than, that's not what you want. And then she just gave that Jude laugh. And you're like, it's going to be okay.
I just started my prayers at that point.
You were terrified.
I did not want to lose Jude. I haven't looked up any spoilers for this. I don't like to do that to myself.
You've avoided. So just so you know, Krisitie has avoided all spoilers.
I don't know who wins.
So on social media, if you're tweeting at News Madam K, she doesn't know who won.
No.
She legitimately doesn't know who won.
I'm happy with anyone at this point.
In every episode, she lives this because she doesn't know who won.
No.
For the record, I do the notes, and the first thing I do is go and grab the chart from each week, which identifies what was baked and who made what. I also know who won. So I do know who wins. Krisitie doesn't.
Yeah.
This makes it a fun little dynamic.
Exactly, because I just enjoy it. And while I'm sitting there going, no, Jude, you can't go, Jude. Oh, God, I think it's Jude. Chris is just sitting there silent, not contributing to my pain.
In his head just going...
Not putting me out of my pain.
In his head just going...
Chuckling away.
It's Corey.
It's like, you could use the internet, woman, and just look it up, you know.
No, I like the fact you don't. All right, so let's go to something now that... Well, let's face it.
Oh, hold on. Introduction to our new listeners. You can hear that delightful barking in the background. That's our lovely Rhodesian Ridgeback Leo.
Yeah, he will chime in from time to time.
With his own opinions.
With his own opinions.
I think he's very keen for the pies, but looking forward to the fondant fancies.
He's very much looking forward to the fondant fancies.
Yeah.
He's a long time
contributor to this podcast.
Contributor to the podcast and a long time listener to Bake Off from outside the back door. And what he likes to do is, especially he heard the words fondant fancy and just off he went.
Off he goes.
You know, he knows what to expect because if you've ever watched Great British Bake Off, you know what a fondant fancy is.
Yes.
They appear a bloody lot.
Yes, they came up for a showstopper, I think, 2 seasons ago. And
they were a grand final at one point. Remember, they were in the grand final at one point.
Were they?
The Candace ones.
That's right. That's what I was thinking of. Oh.
They appeared in... Because I remember commenting on the fact that they made a fondant fancy in the grand final and going, really? Really? That's... For a grand final, that's... Really? So, a fondant fancy, for those who don't know what a fondant fancy is, it's a fancy covered in fondant. That's a good summary.
2 layers of sponge, some jam in the middle.
Some jam and some cream.
Buttercream on the top.
It's basically a Pav...
Drizzled
it's basically a Lamington, as we said.
Yeah.
But a Lamington has chocolate and coconut.
Yeah.
And a fondant fancy has fondant.
It does. And the fondant of the fondant fancy kind of goes over the crumb, whereas like the chocolate on the Lamington kind of soaks into the sponge.
It soaks into it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So if you've got no idea what we're talking about, if you're in Canada and you don't know what a Lamington is, look them up.
And then grab some.
Just quickly to explain a Lamington. And we've done this before for our overseas listeners before, but just one more time.
Chocolatey
it is. It's sponge. It's got to be
soft, sweet.
But the other thing is too, the best Lamingtons are not fresh sponge.
It's got to be slightly
got to be like 2-day-old sponge. So 2-day-old sponge, mock cream.
Yeah, don't use the real stuff.
Don't use fresh cream. It's mock cream. And it's a
jam.
layer of jam, and then you roll them in chocolate. You dip them in chocolate so they're absolutely coated.
Not hard chocolate. It's like a chocolate.
A runny chocolate.
It's a runny chocolate icing.
Yeah, a runny chocolate. Not even an icing. It's just a runny chocolate. Like melt really thin melted chocolate.
Oh, my mum did it with icing sugar too.
You can do it with icing sugar as well.
All right.
And then you roll them in coconut.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a Lamington. And they can be whatever bloody well size you want. Forget this idea of the fondant fancy being they must be all cement. No. You can have a big one or you can have small thin ones. It's completely up to you.
Lamington finger.
It's whatever
trapezoid.
The trapezoid.
Octagon.
I favour the trapezoid. So let's move on and let's talk about the fondant fancy because the fondant fancies were
obelisk.
I don't remember ever seeing an obelisk in a Lamington.
You haven't lived long enough, have you?
Well, obviously not. We need to work on that. All right, so the fondant fancies. The problem with fondant fancies, I find, is there's not a lot to say about fondant fancies.
They're fancy? They've got fondant on them.
Can you make a sponge? Yes. Can you cut the sponge into the diameter they need to be?
Yeah.
Can you then cover them in fondant? Yep. Can you make a jam? Yep. Can you make cream? Yep. Do they even make them? They didn't make them make their own jam. They gave them the jam too. In previous years, they've made them make the jam.
Yeah.
So they got it a little bit easier than
fondant
that.
as well.
What I did love was they didn't bother to tell them how much jam. So Corey, just slab the entire jar on.
He's like, fuck it, I've got a jar of jam. That's going on. More the better.
Why am I going to keep some jam?
Yeah, just jam it on.
But so the fondant fancies.
Big fan of Michael Jackson's jam.
Not. Beep, beep. I don't even know if anybody within the Jackson family is a big fan of jam. Anyway, my two favourite things in this one were first of all James, where he looked at the instructions and said it says warm to body temperature, but it doesn't say whose body.
And we're presuming a live body, not a dead one.
That one. And the follow-up was go back and watch at the very end Jude icing her fondant fancies. We have all been that person. Not icing a fondant fancy, just in general in life.
Yeah. We've
all been that person. We've all pulled that facial expression. We've all had that. So in the judging of the fondant fancy, the judging of the fondant fancy was, well, look, there were a couple of people way out in front, and there were a couple of people way at the back.
Look, you don't want this to be on your resume as a builder that she sponge-lacked a bit of construction.
But unfortunately, poor Julian.
Yeah.
Julian was 8th in this one. He had a bit of an issue with his icing, and his icing was a bit of a problem.
Yes.
Corey, again...
He's not a glazier.
Corey had a bit of a problem with his construction and his icing again. James was 6th. Jude was 5th, and Jude looked again shocked. Terry was 4th. Sabrina was 3rd. She looked a bit surprised that she was 3rd. Linda was 2nd with hers, and Vandana again 1st.
Yes.
It was a really... Look, I think in any other week, Vandana would have won Star Baker.
Yes.
It was just that Linda was out of this world amazing.
Fire.
So that brings us to a showstopper that we actually know a lot about.
Pavlova.
So Pavlova, as
eaten countless numbers of them,
as it's referred to in one children's song in particular.
Yes.
Pavlova, Australia's favourite fruit.
Now, I have to admit something, right? Growing up, I didn't know that Pavlova was made with real eggs. I didn't know, because what you used to buy in Australia was the Pavlova egg, which was this plastic egg-shaped container, probably the size of a mug, that had powder in it that you added water or whatever to whip up into the meringue. So I presumed...
That's how you made a pav?
That's how you made a pav.
We didn't really use the Pavlova magic.
Oh, see, either did my mum, but there was always one in the cupboard.
Well, you've got to have one in case unexpected guests drop in.
You know, if the Queen's coming by. You know what's good about talking to, like, people who are in Canada and England is they understand that concept of the good china that your grandmother always had just in case the Queen drops by.
Makes perfect sense to us. All of our Commonwealth cousins get it. So let's have a bit of a talk about the Pavlova, shall we?
Yeah.
Now, before we get yelled at for me suggesting that it's an Australian thing.
It's not, it's New Zealand.
It's New Zealand. Okay, but here's the way I'm going to phrase it, right? Apple pie, as I explained to you last episode, apple pie is Canadian.
Yep.
But the Americans claim it as their own.
Yes.
Right? Pavlova may have been created by a New Zealander.
But
Australia claims it.
Just like, you know, Tim Finn is a New Zealander.
But Neil, who is far more successful,
is Australian.
He once won Best Australian Act at the People's Choice Awards.
Because that's just how we roll.
Because that's what we do. When Russell Crowe is winning an Oscar, he's Australian. When he's throwing a phone at a concierge's head, he's a New Zealander.
Pavlova, and it's a favourite.
Yeah, again, if you are allergic for any reason to meringue, it's that New Zealand dish.
Now, your classic toppings in Australia for a pav, which is usually, I have to say, single layer, quite thick.
Yep. So when we're to explain to you how it should look for an Australian, you actually had an example on the show.
Yeah, so we had the whipped cream.
Yep.
Fresh fruit, usually strawberries, mango. What else do we put on there? Blueberries.
So Julian's layer is probably the closest.
Yeah, not
quite. It's usually broader.
Yep.
So it's about the size of a full-size tart. So you go back to the first challenge, and the tart, that's the size of the base of the pav. It's usually a one-layer construction.
Yep.
What was said by Rochelle, by the way, is correct. Expect cracks.
Yes. And usually very simple... like flavour profiles. Something that is quite common is passion fruit.
Pulp over the top. So strawberries...
Seeds and all.
Strawberries, mango, passion fruit, pulp over the top.
Sometimes pineapple.
Kiwi fruit.
Oh, yeah, definitely kiwi fruit. With skin on because they're too fucking lazy to...
You want people to have a challenge while they eat.
Yeah.
So... That's a traditional Australian pav. And again, yes, Kiwis, I can hear you. Well, actually, no, I can't hear you because
you don't.
David Dobbin's Slice of Heaven's in the background and you don't matter. But anyway, the Pavlova here was a lot more of the...
Oh, and you know what? If you fancy like my mum was, you get a flake, which is a type of chocolate bar, right? That crumbles quite easily, and you just crumble some flake over the top. Adds a touch of class, my love.
Adds a touch of class. Yes. There you go.
And my favourite was Mum would always leave a little bit of the flake for me because I was a chocoholic, and I still am.
Yeah, I was about to say that hasn't changed.
No.
So what I loved was James decided he was going to make one which was heavily chocolated. And then, like, aren't you worried about aren't you scared about the weight of it? Yes.
Yes.
Aren't you scared about the... Yes.
Yes.
And I'm just scared of all elements. He was terrified of his Pavlova.
It's like he woke up and just went, fuck it, I'm making a horror movie for my showstopper.
It was, but...
It was
the chocolate plum Pav.
Pavlova the 13th.
It was very thin by what we would consider Australian standards. It was a very thin Pav, although again there are lots of more fancy ones being done that are that thin now and that stacked up, and I don't particularly care for it. But on the last series of Australian Bake Off, what did they do?
Double layer Pav.
They did a several layer thin Pavs.
Yeah. So
they were done in that thin stacked way. So you can do them like that, not the way that most people at home would do one. Just so you know. Let's talk a little bit of. We'll come back to Corey. Let's talk a little bit about the peaches and cream Pav of Terry.
Oh, that was nice.
So Terry should be able to do a Pav because spending enough time here, you should be able to do a Pav.
Yeah.
It looked really nice.
That said, I think she's got a trained kangaroo to do that.
Probably
with a possum's assistance.
Looked really nice. What then terrified me was they cut to Sabrina, who has had some amazing flavours and is doing some really good work. Raspberry Rose Pavlova. We've talked about Rose, and she's walking such a fine line.
When it works, it works well, but I saw her put 2 tablespoons in, and I'm like, one would have been more than enough at that point.
She's balancing right on that knife's edge with that rose. It's a dangerous, dangerous flavour.
Less rose, more Jack is our motto.
So Julian.
Yes.
So Julian and his wild blueberry Pavlova,
which he made for his grandmothers, and everyone's over. He's just going.
And what I loved about Julian doing that wild blueberry Pavlova in particular was that, as I said, it looked base-wise the closest to an Australian-style Pav.
It did.
Single layer cream, all that stuff on top of it. It looked incredible.
In fact, it looks so beautiful. It could have been the cover of a Donna Hay magazine. And if you don't know Donna Hay, look up her website.
She spends a lot of time making food look pretty.
Yes. Or her assistants do.
Assistants do. Anyway, but his Pavlova, his wild blueberry Pavlova looked amazing. When he was making it, I kind of had flashbacks to, well, at first it was Close Encounters, but then it went to Homer at Clown College when he's making the tent out of mashed potato. I could just hear, that's it, I'm going to Clown College. Don't think any of us saw that coming. But it looked impressive. The height, the depth, it just looked really good.
Yeah.
Then
Linda?
we talked about Linda. So Linda's looked, oh my God, the meringue that Linda produced, because you need the crack and you need the soft inside.
The Christmas wreath, yes.
Oh.
And the thing is, in Australia, Pavlovas are quite common at Christmas.
It is the most common dessert.
Because, Christmas puddings are quite hot and heavy, and it's, when it's 30, 40 degrees outside, you don't want to be smashing a Christmas pudding unless you're my dad.
No, so in Australia, we tend to go with... first of all, there's a lot more seafood eaten at Christmas time.
Yep.
But secondly, a Pavlova is your stock standard dessert because it's something a bit lighter.
Yeah.
You get the cream, which is cooler, the fruit, which is cooler.
And a lot of the stone fruits in season, which is why, it just works.
Strawberries are at their best as well. Everything's sort of at its absolute peak.
Well, technically strawberries aren't at their best because they're a winter berry.
But the ones that we get during summer here are quite nice.
But as I heard on Talkback Radio the other day, I know, I got stuck listening to Talkback Radio, the strawberry farmers up in Queensland are up in arms.
Oh, good. They're
closing down. There used to be a strawberry season when they could charge us exorbitant prices for strawberries. Now there's strawberries available all year round and they're just going out of business. Because they've been in business for 50 years, which for me is kind of like, well, are you at retirement age? Is that what we're at?
One.
Is that why you're closing down?
One.
Yes.
There's some really good strawberry growers near us in Miscellaneous City.
Oh, my God.
Second and far more importantly...
Go to Luddenham.
Second and far more importantly, North Queensland banana industry has been shutting down the country's economy for years. Like whenever they raised the price of airlines, it was because the bananas were expensive. Not joking. Look it up. The price of bananas directly impacted the Australian economy far too long. So the North Queensland growers have had it too good for too long. Anyway, moving on. So they want to play AM radio? I'll play AM radio.
Talk back.
All right. So let's move on. Mountain. All right. Vandana, who I said was incredible.
Yes.
She did the saffron cardamom pavlova with
yogurt.
Now again, I'm not a big yogurt person, but I liked that idea.
It makes perfect sense. You need that tartness to cut through the sweetness of the meringue, and that was just beautifully done. Vandana, you're just a bloody genius.
Again, if it wasn't for...
I keep clapping.
If it wasn't for Linda producing that amazing pavlova wreath with and again, having that sort of... It ran off the side of it and it looked so fulsome. And when you did that cross-section, you could see the gooiness of that inside meringue with that crisp outside.
And like the colours on Linda's, right? Like pink can be insipid in desserts, and... It just looked so elegant and beautiful and welcoming, and I could just use more and more like words of description, which I'm sure have affectations.
I like that I could use more and more words of description. What she couldn't come up with was a good word for words of description.
No, I couldn't.
No, you couldn't.
I couldn't.
So let's move on.
Too busy thinking about Linda's
Too busy thinking about the Pav.
Yes.
Jude.
Hey,
all right.
Jude.
So the Pavlova music box.
I liked your ballerina.
Okay.
And she knew the history.
Well, she knew the history, however...
The whimsy got away. She'd been locking it... She'd been ignoring it for too long, and the whimsy just took over. Grabbed her by her Canadians and said, all right.
Grabbed her by her Canadians. So the layers were...
Grabbed her by her Canucks.
The lady... The layers were very thin and very crunchy all the way through.
Yeah.
She did a really nice, pretty musical note on the inside, but it didn't kind of disguise it. As they said in the judging, all that work she put into presentation, she might have wanted to put a bit more of it into actually making a meringue.
Yeah.
And she seems to be making these figurines on top a lot.
Love it.
I wonder if
I love James' impression of it and wanting a tutu. It's on topic at the moment because of Serena Williams and her tutu. Just, You want me to fill in here, don't you?
No,
All
we're
right?
good. I'm good.
All right.
So, more importantly,
yes,
we need to talk Corey. Okay. So.
First things first.
Corey.
I'm a realist. Pumpkin. No.
Okay, so Corey, pumpkin pie Pav.
No. Australia's gone into national mourning, Corey.
It was absolutely horrible to look at. We love you, Corey. But what
you broke
was
my
that?
Keith is weeping for you. There's no way he's going to be asking you to make that for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, look, when he said, I think I'm going to be asked to make this at home. No, you're not.
No.
You're really not.
Now, something that also became apparent in its presentation, it was like a prolapse. A certain part of one's anatomy...
Which we won't go into in too much detail, but especially with the red on top, which I didn't understand in the slightest. It was the prolapse Pav.
Needed to see a GP quite quickly.
It was a prolapse Pav. So we had... It looked horrible. I have to say it. It looked horrible.
And I can't do the flavour. Like, I love pumpkin pie when it's done well.
But in a Pav, it's too much messing with my head.
And it's too sweet because you've got... And the textures aren't differentiated. So your pumpkin pie filling is sweet and it's got that kind of milky texture.
To be fair, they did say that the flavour wasn't too bad. It wasn't as bad as it looked.
No.
But to be fair, it looked horrible. So, unfortunately for Corey, when he needed to produce something that, look, to be honest with you, you just needed to do something like Julian's simple, clean, crisp.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
Don't get too fancy. So, unfortunately, Corey had said it was his week, and it was his week to go home, unfortunately.
Yes, Corey. Oh,
you will be missed.
Because we won't be able to rhyme things like story.
Or glory.
Or
allegory. Or Montessori. Disappointing. So...
Good thing is back manning the Corey hotline.
It is good. And Linda finally gets her Star Baker, which she has so richly deserved.
I just love her. Like, she just had that little tear at the end. I'm like, oh, Linda, you're going to make me cry.
Look, this was a brilliant episode in terms of there were things that we've seen consistently across different series. And it made it a lot easier to compare.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to compare in tonight's episode because there were lots of things. That will change with next episode, Canadian Week.
Yes!
Which is going to be so much like us clawing around in the dark.
Yes, I'll be like, what the fuck? I'm presuming maple syrup, bacon.
Make a Tim Hortons donut. Because they're making donuts. I can only assume the winner gets to put into Tim Hortons.
Yes. With their, face on it.
Do you even know the history of who Tim Horton is?
No.
Okay, he's a Toronto Maple Leaf who then started up his own coffee donut chain.
Oh, wow.
And it's now the largest in Canada.
How long ago did it start?
A very long time ago. He played when the last time the Leafs won the Cup, which was the 1960s.
Wow.
It's been going for a while.
But where were you? What... this is what you want you to tweet in, is when Robin Sparkles became Robin Daggers.
As we said in the last episode, we haven't got many responses. Which Tim Hortons were you in and what donut were you eating? Most important question we can ask you. Before we go, just to push some of the social media accounts, to get you a bit of a chance to go out there and have a bit of a look. We're obviously, if you've been able to find this podcast, you probably know we're on Twitter at The Washing Up. We're also on Facebook at The Washing Up, so go over and check that out. We're also on Instagram at Washing Up Pod. We're a good little follow over there, and one of our friends, you can see a whole pile of things over there on the Instagram. One of the things you can see on the Instagram is our wedding cake.
Yes.
Now, our wedding cake was the Great Australian Bake Off shed.
Yes.
So, and it was made by Monica, who was one of the runners-up of Series 3 of the Great Australian Bake Off. Monica is on Instagram.
Moorish Cakes.
She's Moorish Cakes. She's at Moorish72.
And she's also doing tutorials on YouTube at the moment under Moorish Cakes.
Yep, so she's trying to get herself up to 3,000 followers. She's not that far off it. So give her a follow. Give her a follow.
Yeah.
Go and check out her stuff. It is absolutely incredible. Check out our Instagram. I said Washing Up Pod. And go and have a look. I said the shed, compare it to, go look up photos of the Bake Off shed in Australia, compare it to the cake. It is amazing. We were actually standing at the wedding pointing out where everyone's benches were.
And it just didn't look good. It tasted amazing. It was an orange poppy seed with the Contro cream. It just
looks incredible. So and the decorations for the wedding are all based off the Great Australian Bake Off. So it was designed to look like the shed that we use for Bake Off.
Yeah.
So go and check that out, and go and have a bit of a follow of all of the different Australian bakers. Go and check out some of their stuff too, because it's good fun to sort of go across the world and look at what the different bake-off cultures have.
Yeah, we've got Sweet Nothings, that's Liv's. We've got Robert's Cakes.
Yep.
That's Robert Harwood. Who else is there? Oh God,
we'll put a list of them out on social media. But I do highly recommend go and check out at Moorish72, Monica Carvalho cake design, and some amazing cakes. So check us out on at Washing Up Pod on Instagram, The Washing Up on Twitter, The Washing Up on Facebook, The Washing Up on YouTube. We are there. I may have done a weird thing where I was a MasterChef contestant doing a breakdown video at some point.
Speaking of MasterChef, there's one person I do want to plug. That's Jo Kendre. We're looking forward this week, who she also knows Mama Jo. She does some random friggin' Instagram lives. Just follow her for her. And she's always finding really interesting foodie stuff going on. So that's Jo Kendre. Is it at Mama Jo's or J? You'll tell me in a second.
We'll look it up. We'll look it all up for you. And also, start having a think, Canadian bakers, because there was something I put forward in the last series of the Great British Bake Off that we're going to have to expand.
Oh, yes.
During the last series of the Great British Bake Off, I put forward a proposal for the Bake Off Ashes between Australia and Great Britain.
Now, the Ashes are the cricket
what
we
did was we picked teams 5 aside, and we got a couple of the British bakers, Stephen Carter-Bailey and Yan from the last series. We got them to pick teams for the Bake Off Ashes. We got some of the Australian bakers to pick their teams.
It's now going to become the Commonwealth Games.
So
the Commonwealth Bakes.
With a special thank you to Leah, who's a regular contributor, who actually put that idea in my head.
Do you think we can get Prince Charles to open it?
That could be fun. He was on MasterChef Australia the other week and did absolutely nothing. But what we're thinking is maybe we need to do a Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
Start thinking of teams of 5. I know you've only got the one series at the moment, but after the second series, start thinking of your team of 5. And we might have to put together a bake-off Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
This might have to happen. The Americans don't count. Don't worry about them.
Fuck the Americans.
We don't care. All right?
What are they, like, freaking host a pedophile or something?
I don't know.
Bullshit.
Anyway, I'm not going to say that. That's under the alleged blanket. I don't want to get sued.
Oh,
so
allegedly.
it's under the alleged blanket. I'm not going to get sued. Anyway, moving past that, thank you very much again for listening. We've really enjoyed the feedback. We've really enjoyed the interactions. Until next episode, which could be at any damn time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Krisitie.
And we'll catch you all later.
Bye-bye.